AD on the radio.
Every day you're going and working, running that rat race and that pace and that place will leave a bad taste for anyone, everyone working day after day. So buddy, I gotta say, for you, there's gotta be a better way, yeah. And you do what they told ya. Company man, feel it, a mindless little soldier. How can you live like that and maintain your composure before it's begun? Your life's already freaking over. Yeah, I do what I want when I want.
We're going to talk about what happened in Colorado over the Thanksgiving break. We're going to talk about what happened in Colorado today. But before we even get into any of the details, I wanted to talk a little bit more about, I guess, really the level of emotion that's been stirred up over it. And yeah, it should be an emotional thing. It was a senseless tragedy. It was a series of deaths that made no sense. It was a heinous act of violence committed by a psychopathic madman. But before we got into that, kind of as a buffer, I suppose, to what we're going to talk about today, before we got into it, I wanted to encourage all of us to maybe take a step back from these situations that make us so painfully angry. You know what's interesting? If you go into a shrink, or if you're one of those people that has to attend anger management classes, 9 times out of 10, when it comes to managing your anger, you get very simple exercises to do. You get given exercises like take a deep breath, count backwards from 10, or count to 10. Now, there's a reason for this. There's a reason you're told to count to 10 is because losing your temper, losing it, is a physiological storm in your brain, and you can't do anything intellectually to cut it off at the pass. But there's a reason we count to 10, and there's a reason before we talk about any of this, or as we talk about this, or as you read up on what's going on, or as you watch television with regard to what's going on, it's very important that we all do that taking of a breath and counting to 10. We'll get into why in a second.
iHeartRadio puts the spotlight on U2. After 1988's #1 album and rockumentary film Rattle and Hum, U2 took a break and looked to shift their musical direction. The result was 1991's Achtung Baby. It was their first #1 debut in the U.S., and their Zoo TV tour led right to 1993's hit Zooropa album. U2 kicked off the new millennium with 2000's All That You Can't Leave Behind, hailed as a comeback after mixed reaction to 1997's Pop. The new album became the first album to have multiple songs win the Record of the Year Grammy, Beautiful Day in 2001 and Walk On in 2002. The band released 2 more albums in the 2000s, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb in 2004 and 2008's No Line on the Horizon. After a 5.5-year gap, U2's next release was Songs of Innocence in 2014, and the band went on tour in 2015 for the first time in nearly 10 years. U2 was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2005 and have won over 20 Grammys, more than any other group. All things U2. Info, music, and more are on iHeartRadio. Keyword U2.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Mike Rutherford to discuss the art of songwriting.
I've learned one thing over the years is that actually you can't control it. You can't force it. You can't analyze it. You can't worry about it. You just go and have a good time and mess around, and then something comes along and you grab it. It's something intangible. And if you try and make a program how to do it and do it better, you get lost. So it's like a free-form thing, which you can't control. You just let it ride or not ride. And if it's not working, then you just have a break. That's what I've learned.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Mike Rutherford and all your favorite artists.
Like most kids from a privileged white upper middle class suburban background, for a significant portion of his childhood, he was pretty convinced he was down. AG on the radio.
Yeah, oh, let's go. Talking that mess, better act like you know. Oh, let's go tonight. Walk away, punk, yeah, bitch. That's right, I know this. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. You're nothing but a punk, bitch. So walk away, yeah, yeah. You've been talking about me for a long time, but you're too scared to say what's on your mind.
So what happened? What happened at the Planned Parenthood shootings this past weekend just gone by is something that's going to incite an awful lot of anger. And not only that, unfortunately, it appears to have incited an awful lot of posturing on either side of the political fence almost immediately. Regard for human life, thought toward senseless tragedy. No. It's become an enormous political battle almost immediately overnight. Overnight. And there's plenty with regard to the situation to be angry about. There's everything to be angry about. Is that anger useful or justifiable? Yeah, maybe, perhaps. But I would encourage us all to take a step back. If you're just joining us, I was talking about, if you go to a shrink, if you go to anger management classes, I've never been to anger management classes. Some people would say, maybe I should. But I know what happens in them. I know what happens if you have a tendency of losing it. If you have a tendency of losing your temper. And maybe saying or doing things that aren't reasonable. Even thinking thoughts that aren't reasonable or productive. What happens if you go into an anger management class? And maybe your anger is totally justifiable. Maybe your outrage has every reason to exist. It's just not helpful to you. People want some sort of like magical formula to rid themselves of anger. People want some sort of magical formula to help them regain control of their senses. People want some sort of magical formula or drug or what have you. And you know what happens most of the time? Is your shrink will say, well, all right, I need you to take a deep breath and count to 10. You know, like, really? Take a deep breath and count to 10? That's what you got? That's what I'm paying $85 an hour for? Take a deep breath and count to 10? And there's a reason for that. When you start to get bent out of shape, when something gets your Irish up, when you start to lose your temper, say you're being mistreated by a customer service rep on the phone and you're ready to go Michael Douglas falling down on him. The reason you're told to take a deep breath and count to 10 is because you losing your you losing your temper is a physiological storm in your mind. You can't do anything about it. It's neurons and synapses and the electric currents that roll through your brain on a regular basis firing off so quickly that you can't intellectually put a stop to that process. You can't. You can't go, okay, stop, what am I thinking? Now, the reason you're told to take a deep breath and count to 10 is because it focuses your mind away from what's going on. You can't intellectually fight the loss of temper. But what you can do is you can reposition your mind away from it. Distract it. Break that chain reaction in your head that's leading you to whatever sort of loss of cool it is, whatever sort of loss of temper it is, whatever sort of bubbling over that's about to happen, that's about to make you say or do something that's not useful, not helpful, and in the worst case scenario, destructive. Taking a deep breath and counting to 10 is what your anger management consultant or your shrink will tell you to do, even though you're paying $85 an hour for it, and you're going, why? Taking a deep breath and counting to 10 is what you're going to be told to do, because that's one of the very few things that can cut off the chain reaction going on in your head that's about to make you bubble over and say or do something that isn't productive, or worse, is destructive, that maybe you don't mean. Now, like I said, there's plenty to be justifiably outraged at with regard to something like the Planned Parenthood shooting. And if you're like me, the thing that I think makes you angrier than anything else is the fact that they are, and by they, I mean People that are only too quick to capitalize on something like this for their own selfish political gain. On either side of the political fence, people are only too quick to posture. Why isn't he being called a terrorist? Why did Obama call him a Christian terrorist and he's not willing to call Muslim terrorists? We need gun control. We need to curb the rhetoric that's on talk radio. All the above. Are some valid points being made? Yeah, possibly. And we'll discuss some of that. But if you're like me, besides the senseless killing, the thing that got you the most with regard to the shooting this past weekend just gone by was how quick the descent into madness was with regard to all of this. It was how quick the descent into madness was. Look, outrage is big, big business. You and I've talked about this before. Manufactured outrage, if you don't have any of the real deal stuff, it's a great way to sell web clicks, copies of papers, all sorts of things that can be easily monetized. The descent into madness surrounding events like this is, I think, the thing that most offended me. Not offended. That's not, you know what? That's a word that has become uncomfortable to use because it's been so egregiously overused. That's a thing that made me go, oh, that's disappointing. It's disappointing to watch people descend into madness this way. And so I would encourage you, when you are taking in anything, up to and including me, any form of media, any form of speculation, any form of intake of events like what happened in Colorado, I would urge you to practice that same thing that'll stop you from getting into a fight with a customer service guy at Walmart while you're Black Friday shopping. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. Don't descend into the collective madness that has infected the zeitgeist of America. Have a cooler head and let it prevail. Because that's the only way. That's the only way we as a species are going to evolve. Have a cooler head and let that cooler head prevail. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. Think. Think seriously about who you are and what this means to you. Don't be baited into outrage. Don't be baited into taking a stand so firm against any opposition to your opinion that it kills the humanity in you and kills the humanity that is so necessary to get us through situations like this one. Take a deep breath. Count to 10. All righty then, Funkhauser. Let's go over the events of today in our segment, My Witness News in no way, shape, or form. Fair, certainly not balanced. How was the whole Thanksgiving shindig? I mean, we came in on Thanksgiving, but
it was
there were
cool.
multiple days off after that.
It was cool. It kind of bled it all together, did a lot of sleep. It got really cold, man. The weather's happening.
Yeah. Do you like that? Do you like the cold?
No. I mean, man, I just told the guys here, it's like, can it be hotter than 68 degrees today? Because they keep the AC nice and cool in here, man. But yeah, I mean, winter has hit us, and the 40s are here in Southern California, and man, it's a wind chill factor of brr.
You know, during the tail end of summer, or as fall starts and like the summer weather is still lingering, and it's all sort of, I don't know. The weather's all schizophrenic, and you're like, I started the day with long pants, and now I'm sweating. I should have worn shorts, or why am I wearing this sweatshirt, or why did I pack a scarf, or any of the above? And you just kind of wish weather would even out and be all the way cold. I no longer wish that. Like, my toes are freezing when I get into bed at night, and now, you have this constant struggle. Like, okay, summertime, close the windows, put the AC on, and then you're like, do I open the windows? And then you open the windows, and then it's cool enough to have the windows open for a little bit, and then it gets death-defyingly hot, and you're like, I don't want to go around the whole place. It'll just get cold at night, and then I have to reopen all the windows and turn off the AC, and it becomes this whole big thing. Now the big battle is, do I put the heat on? Is that a thing? Is that what I'm going to be doing?
I
And
did.
it's,
I have.
You put the really? You put the heat on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you get that thing where it smells like burnt dust in your house because there's
Yeah, and then you hear like a faint fire truck, and you're like, "Uh-oh, is that me?" Just check the whole house. No, we're good. Okay.
Are you? Do you feel sick? Like the change of seasons tends to get everybody.
Yeah, it's the nose.
Yeah.
The nose always knows, doesn't it?
The nose always does, in fact, know. It's true. This is probably revolting detail to go into, but like I've been honking up like really kind of like pebble like bleeding boogers.
See, man, I'm worried
Like, every
about
time
you.
What, you mean the constant stomach pain and
Everything
sort
is
of-
falling apart. This is.
I bleed from every orifice every single day.
We are aging live in front of you.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I watched this documentary on sugar last night and how it's essentially the root of all evil. It was like Super Size Me, but specifically with regard to sugar. It's on Netflix, I think, or who, I don't know. One of the streaming services has it. I don't remember what it's called, but it's some Australian guy who's super healthy and he cuts sugar out of his life. And feels great. And then he decides, I'm going to reintroduce sugar, but not eat tons of candy and stuff. I'm just going to eat the hidden sugar that's in your so-called healthy sports drinks and yogurts and Jamba juices and things like that. And he starts to feel awful and he gets mood swings. And basically it sort of like comes to the conclusion that sugar is the root of all evil. I don't actually eat that much sugar, but I was wondering if I was eating hidden sugar. And there's all right, so like as you get older and fatter, Funkhauser, where does it tend to collect?
In the middle range section where the tire, if you're wearing
Right.
a tire, that's
Right,
where
right.
it would, right there.
The love handle spare tires thing?
Yeah, buddy. Mm-hmm.
See, it used to be that way for me too. Like if I ever got out of shape, I would know because I was like, oh, hello, old friend. I'll just fasten the belt beneath the belly now. No, not a problem. I don't really have that at the moment, but like what I do feel is like this. What I do feel is like right below the rib cage, like the very top of your stomach. You know, that area, like what is that? Is that your solar plexus? Your abdomen? What would you call that?
Your upper stomach. I don't know.
Your upper stomach, the very top of your stomach. That's where I notice it. Like that's where I notice it. Where I'm just like, hey, that's unusual. I've never, I haven't gotten it there before. What is the deal with that? Like, and what it turns out is, that's actually like quick Google search thinking like I'm eating hidden sugars and it's ruining my life. It turns out not hidden sugars. That is the area where you kind of put on fat because of stress and lack of exercise. So stress and lack of exercise, the two things that I've encountered since I clawed my way to middle management in corporate America, are causing me to have a fatty deposit right below my collarbone, or right below my breastplate. We got to find an official name for this if we're going to keep talking about it. But yeah, so it's this like area right below and right below your chest,
right above, in between.
In between. It's the in between. It's above your stomach and below your chest, and it's sort of like I'm pressing into it right now. I can feel it, and it's like the thing is, it's not like fat, like love handle fat. And what they said is it's fat collecting around your internal organs. I was just like, that doesn't sound good. That doesn't sound healthy.
I'm just going to call it Santa fat.
Santa fat, yeah.
And be jolly and giggle anytime somebody points it.
Yeah.
I mean,
like the whole Santa fat thing. Yeah. No. So it's like I've got this deposit right above, right above there. And apparently that's not eating too much sugar fat. That's not overindulging fat. That's stress fat. That's you're gonna die fat is what that is. So I've discovered last night that I've got a large deposit of you're gonna die fat right below my breastbone. Let's see if we can make it through the next segment, shall we?
With puppies in my face and Dad gotta join the human race. Time.
This is USA Radio News. I'm Melody Burkett. Protesters are gathering in Baltimore to rally before the trial for one of the 6 officers charged in Freddie Gray's death. Prosecutors and defense attorneys have begun selecting the jury that will hear the case against Officer William Porter. Porter faces a number of charges in the death of Freddie Gray. The 25-year-old Gray died from injuries he suffered after police arrested him last April. Riots broke out after Gray's death. President Obama is in France to attend a summit on global climate change. In remarks today, Obama said nearly 200 nations have gathered to address the growing threat of climate change.
This is a turning point. This is the moment we finally determined we would save our planet. Is the fact that our nations share a sense of urgency about this challenge and a growing realization that it is within our power to do something about it.
Obama stated that the understanding of how humans disrupt the climate is growing day by day. This is USA Radio News. I'm Melody Burkett.
Hi, I'm Joan London. When I needed to find senior care for my mom, I really struggled to find the right fit until I found an advisor, someone who had been through this before. That's why I recommend A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. They have experts who will help you ask the right questions and find the right place. Call A Place for Mom today.
To speak with the local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-469-7591. That's 1-800-469-7591.
A Place for Mom has helped over 200,000 families find the right senior care for their parents, from assisted living to independent living, even Alzheimer's care, and have local advisors that can help explain your options at no cost to you.
To speak with the local senior living advisor, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-469-7591. That's 1-800-469-7591.
Call today.
What's trending?
In the NBA, Lakers future Hall of Famer Kobe Bryant announced that this season, his 20th season in the NBA, will be his final season. Bryant is a 5-time NBA champion and a 17-time All-Star. He's going to call it quits at the end of this year. In Week 12 in the NFL, Sunday Night Football saw the Broncos hand the Patriots their first loss of the year, 30-24 in overtime. Running back C.J. Anderson won it for Denver with a 48-yard run. Broncos improved to 9-2. New England drops to 10-1 with their first loss of the year. Tight end Rob Gronkowski was carted off the field late in this one for the Patriots, but initial tests say the injury is not believed to be serious. In late action of note, Seahawks beat the Steelers 39-30. Seattle moves into an NFC wildcard spot with that win. Pittsburgh falls out of an AFC wildcard spot with that loss. In early games of note, the Colts beat the Buccaneers 25-12. Texans over the Saints 24-6. Houston and Indy are tied at 6-5. Both are in the playoffs right now. I'm Eddie Garcia.
Now, a year in rock spotlight, 1969.
In May of 69, Neil Young releases his first album with Crazy Horse, Everyone Knows This Is Nowhere, featuring the songs Cinnamon Girl and Down by the River. The Who released the double concept album Tommy, which goes top 10 in the US and the UK.
He played my favorite table, he can't beat my best. His disciples needed him, and he just does the rest. It's not crazy, little fingers, never seen him fall. That gift of a black kid sure plays a mean pinball.
David Bowie's single Space Oddity, released to coincide with the Apollo 11 moon landing, reaches number 5 in the UK. Also in July, Bob Dylan has a top 10 hit with Lay Lady Lay in his new, deeper-sounding vocal style, which he attributes to quitting smoking.
Whatever colors you have in your mind, I show them to you, and you see them shine. Lay, lady, lay, lay across my big brass bed.
Blood, Sweat, and Tears have a number 2 hit with Spinning Wheel, popularizing the so-called brass rock movement that includes BST, Chicago, and Electric Flag.
Drop all your troubles by the riverside. Catch a painted pony on the spinning wheel ride.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more from 1969. Coming up.
Hey parents, introducing the Communicizer. Go from boring old man speak.
Oh, I'm here if you want to talk.
To 100% off the chain.
Text me whenever, yo.
I love you, Dad.
Communicizer is not available in stores because it doesn't exist. But that's okay. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Because kids in foster care don't need perfection. They need you. For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org.
Now, more AD on the radio.
Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me. Back once again, the ill behavior, delivering and giving you a musical savior. Back once again, it's your boy AD again. Nobody rock a party better than me.
Alrighty then, Funkhauser. Ooh. Picture health and vitality. Alrighty then, Funkhauser. Before I finish completing my second puberty, let's get into the events of today in our segment, My Witness News, in no way, shape, or form fair. Certainly not balanced. By the way, it still sounds like ass, right? There's something definitely wrong. Do I need to, do I need to inflict brutal death on a board op later on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Always inflict the brutal death.
Somebody here's going to die today. On my side of things. Well, they left something
happened?
Connected all weekend. And
you mean one of those super
expensive.
expensive digital phone calls that cost like $20 million a minute, and they left it connected over the weekend because they forgot?
Yeah, it's kind of like calling Mars and leaving the phone on the hook for 5 days or something.
Yeah.
There goes my annual salary.
Yeah.
But it wasn't me, so we'll be here to broadcast again tomorrow.
Your Christmas bonus is not getting fired. What about, hey, that sounds better, right?
Oh,
yeah. You know what it was? It was, that's so much better, right?
I don't know.
Yeah?
I
No?
guess. Sure.
You don't?
Sounds the same.
I don't know. Sounds the same?
Really hard to do it when we're on the air.
Yeah, it is. Everything is terrible. Go on.
Kendall Jenner handed out food from her Range Rover to the homeless at several street corners this Thanksgiving.
And it sure was delicious, said her brother Rob Kardashian. That guy's made poor decisions. Yeah, I saw that. Kendall Jenner took to her Range Rover, handed out food to the homeless on a bunch of street corners over Thanksgiving in an effort to do her part to move the humanitarian ball down the field. And you're not going to believe this, but in an amazing coincidence, cameras were around to catch it. Go figure. I think all the goodwill Kendall got was quickly lost when she was done and yelled at her assistants, "Quick, spray me for homeless cooties!" Go on.
Claims Quentin Tarantino has been making for years that he spent time in jail in his 20s are apparently not true.
Yeah. It's...
He said he was in jail in his 20s?
I guess. I saw this and I was like, I guess this is part of the Quentin Tarantino myth, the legend, whatever the case may be. This was part of who he was and how he's perceived for a very long time.
He sounds like an eloquent Jay Leno when he talks.
An outlaw filmmaker. But what's very interesting? I was thinking about this. Do you know, you ever heard of this rapper Stitches?
No.
So Stitches was this up-and-coming rapper from Miami, and you know how you get a certain amount of street credibility if you claim you've been to prison in the hip-hop world. Well, he claimed that he was one of Miami's biggest drug dealers, and he'd done numerous stints in jail since he was in juvie, and that he had all sorts of money. And he was like, "Don't worry where I get my money from," and all this sort of stuff. And He gained a little bit of internet notoriety, not only through his music, but by also doing things like throwing pieces of jewelry out into the street on YouTube and saying, like, "I don't need it. This money's nothing to me. This is just a drop in the bucket. Look at this chain. It's worth blah, blah, blah," and then chucking it out into the street or chucking it from moving cars. Well, in this day of digital technology, significantly easier to fact check than it was back in the day. And so people would go, "Oh, I recognize that street where he threw out his necklace." And he was like, they would go, they would retrieve the stolen necklace, or they would retrieve the necklace that he got rid of. And they'd be like, yeah, this is mostly tin painted gold with cubic zirconias in it. This is worth about 25 cents. Stitches is a big phony, a giant phony. And then people were able to go, okay, well, his name's Stitches, but his actual sort of like nom de plume is, Jeffrey Eisenhower. I don't know what the hell the guy's real name was, but it's really easy to look up online and see, like, oh, he was like a really lame sort of suburban rap battler, and almost none of what he says is true. He was kind of hardcore in that he got an AK-47 tattooed on his face. That's a bold statement, but nevertheless, he was a guy who was getting a lot of mileage off of this sort of like invented gangster past. And back in the day, that worked out just dandy for Vanilla Ice. Vanilla Ice, I think, is from Dallas. His real name is Rob Van Winkle, but he claimed to be sort of like a Miami street tough back in the day, and that's a big part of how he got up in the game.
He taught me that A1A was a freeway. Or a street or something.
Yeah. He like, Vanilla Ice had some gangster credibility in the late 80s, I guess, when he came out. And because no one had the internet, like lots of things are public record, but, when it's more than, what, really? I got to go to a place, I got to get in a car, drive to a place, and ask to look at some public records. And that, it involved a significant amount of legwork back in the day to corroborate or not someone's claims about their gangster credibility. And so it was really easy to invent a myth of yourself back in the day. But now, with Facebook pages that you've had since you were a teenager and all the above, and people know who you are. There's no getting around who you are. Like the idea, like if you wanted to lay a yarn on some female, if you wanted to say that I'm a $1 billion a year CEO and I've got a yacht and a boat and a fast car and all the above because you're trying to get into her pants, I think back in the 80s that would work. You would just need a convincing suit and watch, and you could go with a pretend job and you could turn it into actual naked females in your bedroom. That would not be an impossibility. Now, okay, cool. Let me be your friend on Facebook. Oh, I don't have a Facebook page. Okay, then. Red flag number
Sketchy.
one. So it's really easy to sniff suckers out in this day and age, where it wasn't back in the day. So guys like Stitches, the so-called gangster rapper that was like one of Miami's premier drug dealers, people found out really quickly that none of that was true. And what looked like it was going to be a humongous record deal turned into a whole lot of nothing pretty quickly, because people are able to sniff through the BS much quicker in this day and age. So if you're like Quentin Tarantino and came up in the 80s and 90s and you had stories of being in jail, well, now it's significantly easier to fact check.
Yeah, I bet you've heard about this.
Yeah. So anyways, claims Quentin Tarantino has been making for years that he spent time in jail in his 20s, apparently not true. Nobody ever thought to doubt him until the other day when he said he was he said that during a fight out in the yard he was stabbed by Ben Carson.
Like Theo Huxtable, days like this when I feel untouchable, I try and make up for all the wrongs I did by living my life like a Cosby kid, jamming on the one like Theo and Stevie. I know it sounds crazy, but you gotta believe me.
iHeartRadio shines the spotlight on Van Halen.
In 1981, Fair Warning was not a huge success, but its follow-up, Diver Down, was a huge hit, spawning a number 12 cover of Roy Orbison's Oh Pretty Woman. While all of their previous albums were successful, Van Halen didn't become superstars until 1984, when their album, 1984, became an across-the-board smash. Released on New Year's Day, 1984 rocketed to number 2 on the strength of the number 1 single, Jump. Like many songs on the album, Jump was driven by Eddie's new synthesizer, and while rock was initially reluctant to use electronics, the expansion of the group's sound was widely praised.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Van Halen and all your favorite artists.
iHeartRadio goes one-on-one with Mike Rutherford to discuss that even though there were generational difficulties, his father was always quite supportive.
You've got to understand, I'm sure it's the same over here, but in England, that generational change from my father's era to my era, he was the English Empire days, 2 world wars. It was hard to communicate. There was a big divide between us. It's just there was no dialogue, really. You couldn't discuss things because there was no sort of platform to share conversations on. But no, he was supportive, and in a way, given that he hadn't got a clue what I was doing, in those days, what parent did in those days, music, long hair and a guitar, he was given that. He was very supportive.
Keep listening to iHeartRadio for more Mike Rutherford and all your favorite artists.
Now, someone who everybody wants to punch in the face. AD on the radio.
Hey, Funkhauser, do we even need to talk about what
you
happened?
got so much crunchier.
Oh God! Everything is awful. Everything is just terrible.
Did we talk about what now? What did you say?
Do we need to talk about what happened in Colorado? You know what? Let's not. Let's not. I think we said what we had to say. I think, look, people are all about turning it into an opportunity to politically posture. And, let's let a couple more pieces fall into place. Let's when we talk about this, and we will talk about this, take a more educated tack on it. Because, look, there's people attacking free speech. There's people attacking Planned Parenthood. There are people attacking gun control laws. Like any number of positions are being taken on this. Any number of ways people are descending into madness with regard to this. And you know what? People are doing it from a very, very uninformed place. There's just so much that we don't know at this stage in the game, and there's just so much that is nothing more than political posturing. The right are being blamed, saying like, hey, it's the anti-abortion pro-life stance that led to this, and it's talk radio that led to this, and the people on the right are saying, well, actually, Ted Cruz was written up for saying something that I can't remember what it was, but it sounded kind of insane. So, and because it sounded kind of insane, what did he say? What did he say?
To Google,
I don't know. Huckabee said what he did is domestic terrorism, and what he did is absolutely abominable, especially to us in the pro-life movement, because there's nothing about any of us that would condone or in any way look the other way on something like this. It's, for Huckabee that he's not taking a position. What was it? Oh, yeah. So, like, a reporter approached Ted Cruz and said that the shooter made a comment about baby parts while being apprehended. That's just that comes from an unnamed source. The fact that he said something about baby parts during the shooting, nobody knows for sure exactly what happened. And Cruz said it's been reported he was registered as an independent and a woman and a transgendered leftist activist. Like, nobody knows. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. People are just too quick to position. People are too quick to use this as some sort of political jumping off point. Obama refuses to call Muslim terrorists, but he was quick to call this guy a Christian terrorist, and people are having a field day with that. And you know what? There's all sorts of things to be justifiably outraged with regard to this, but the bodies aren't even cold yet. So I think what we're going to do is, we're going to rest on this. Please. There's so many things you can get incensed about. Like, there's so many things that can anger you no matter which side of the argument you fall down on this one. But let your cooler head prevail. Do that thing. Count to 10. Take a deep breath before you get all bent out of shape about anything. And really think about what's in your heart and your mind as a human being before you descend into anger. Roy Shelton on Twitter pointed out and said, I believe it was our own government that said never let a good tragedy go to waste. And in that case, nobody's letting this tragedy go to waste in terms of posturing and name-calling and mudslinging from either side of the fence. And let's just leave it at this. Let's let people know that our position on this is chill the hell out. Really take that deep breath. Really count to 10 and think about who you are before you descend into the collective madness of doing things that really I think are not respectful of the lives that have been lost in this situation. And we'll get into it. We'll get into it in a more informed and deep way a little later on. I got so many emails about this when it happened saying, what do you have to say about this? What's going on? I can't wait to listen to the show on Monday with regard to what happened in Colorado. And I get that. I really do. And I'm flattered that you would look to me for, some sort of opinion or some sort of discussion about this. And we do need to have a discussion about this, but let's buck the trend. Let's be smarter. Let's have our conversation. let's have our emotional watershed if there needs to be one with regard to this topic from a more informed and therefore compassionate place. And let's let some of the details fall into place before we take it on. And that's it. That's all I'm going to say about what happened in Colorado today. And the rest is business as usual. Funkhauser, what else is going on in the world?
Well, Mary-Kate Olsen got married on Friday.
Yeah. You know, she's like 29 years old now, I think. Something like that. She's pushing 30, which is hard to believe. You know, one of the Olsen twins. I mean, I guess both of the Olsen twins, given the fact that their twins are now 29. But yeah, her wedding ring fit perfectly around her waist. Go on.
29-year-old Mary-Kate Olsen married 46-year-old Olivier
Sarkozy. He's like a gazillionaire, right?
I guess so.
He is
to Google.
He's not a good-looking guy. He's kind of like a doofy. Yeah. No. That said, all right. Olsen twins. Did they grow up to be as hot as everyone thought they would be when they were 18? Do you think?
Oh, me? I'd never got behind them. No, I'm more into the DJ. Yeah.
Wait, what? What the hell are you talking about?
DJ,
that's uncomfortable.
Come on, that other girl.
DJ. Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah. I understand. Wasn't she the one with the meth problem?
Oh, maybe.
She's
all cleaned up now, though.
Yeah, whatever gets you through the day. Yeah, Olivier Sarkozy is a French banker who lives in America, and his brother used to be president of France. So, yeah. That's what it takes to marry an Olsen twin. You have to be the brother of a president and be a gazillionaire banker. So he's 29 years old. She's 29 years old. He's 46 years old. So that's a May to December marriage, as in it may be over by December, I think. But I don't know. They've been dating for freaking ever. People do weird things for weird reasons, you know? Like, I think they've been together for a very long time. They got married, and there's probably some sort of, sickness in her that is, completed or mitigated by the fact that he's a 46-year-old French guy that is brothers with a former president that happens to be a gazillionaire. There's some part of him that repairs some sort of damage in her, and for that reason, they've been together for a long time, and you never know. It might actually work out. And for him, it'll work out because she's a smoking hot piece of ass that's 17 years younger than him. So, for him, it's all happy smiles. Although it's interesting. It is interesting. I mean, I know he lives in America. But if he's French, did Full House travel to other countries? I don't know that it did. So, who knows? What he feels for her might be legit. It's not like, I'm banging one of the Olsen twins. It's like, I'm
banging an actress from Disney Channel.
Yeah, there is this charming young lady that I guess used to be on television at some point. I don't know. I do know that she does everything I would like in the bedroom, and she is almost 20 years younger than me. Therefore, my Frenchness is mitigated.
I would think she's
this.
probably really stuck up.
Really?
Yeah, behind the scenes, I would think, yeah.
Well, also, the other thing is, I think both of the Olsen twins, we forget now because I don't think they do a whole lot of anything anymore, but they used to be $1 billion marketing sort of industry. There was Olsen twins everything. The Olsen twins made money hand over fist for a good chunk of the 90s and early 2000s, I guess. And there's so much money was made. And they had this absolute freaking empire. And so, now they're outrageously rich. So I guess that's the other thing. If you're an outrageously rich person, you want to marry another outrageously rich person. So you feel you have a frame of reference to each other's, lifestyle, I suppose. I got to imagine that someone who is a billionaire would want to marry another billionaire or someone that was close to being it. I think, do you ever hear on Stern where Jenny McCarthy, Stern says, do you have a dollar amount for someone to date you? He's like, you got a lot of money. You made a lot of money over the years. Could you just date a poor guy, a pizza delivery guy? Could you go all share and date the pizza delivery guy? And she's like, no. I couldn't. He doesn't need to make as much money as I do, but gotta be in the game, and he was like, "What's your cutoff point?" And she was like, $500,000 a year. I think would be, would be respectable. I don't need his money in any way, shape, or form. But she's
funny. I had the
Jim
same
Carrey
conversation with my boss the other day.
Oh, really? You did?
Yeah, $500,000 will do. That'll be just fine.
With regard to what you make or what you need someone to make when they
looking
date you?
to date somebody super. I mean, my girlfriend makes that much, so why don't you put me in that ballpark too?
Canadian Jay makes $500,000 a year.
Well, no, but
but it'd be nice.
It would be.
It would be. Yeah. I mean, Jenny McCarthy was like, she had a cutoff point. She was like, you got to make at least $500,000 a year. I don't know. I don't know why you need to make $500,000 a year to date her, but I would imagine there's reasons. I mean, she's married to that new kid on the block now, who think he makes $500,000 a year. He's got, he's got 80s money to fall back on. I'm sure he's just fine and or dandy in his particular financial situation. And for her to have been invested in him, like he probably had to produce some sort of bank statements if there was that going on. But I don't know. Good for her for being realistic about the situation. Like, maybe you got sort of like a situation where, to be with me, you got to be able to travel. You got to be financially independent. You got to be able to, globetrot a little bit. You got to be able to zip back and forth between New York and Chicago and LA or wherever the hell she calls home. And if you're stressing over a $350 plane ticket the way Funkhauser and I do, then that's just not going to work. So you and I could never have dated Jenny McCarthy, Funkhauser.
Yep.
Yeah. So there's that. Go on. What else?
The Force Awakens will be rated PG-13.
PG stands for pretty geeky. Pretty geeky. For more details about The Force Awakens, tune into Anything, Anytime, Anyplace, Anywhere. The one if The Force Awakens fails, it won't be it will not be from lack of awareness. Like, I think isn't it sold out for like the first 2 weeks or something ridiculous like that?
Yeah.
Like, if you want to go see The Force Awakens, I think you have to have your tickets. Like, your tickets will have to be for like the third Monday after it comes out. You have to go at 2:00 in the afternoon. It's crazy. I've never heard of tickets to a movie selling out in advance. I've heard of concerts, having that happen. I've heard of some events selling out in advance, but never once have I heard of a movie selling out in advance. It's absolutely bananas. I look forward to watching it, but I will do it after all the hubbub has died down. What else?
Coldplay's new album includes a sample of President Obama singing.
In case you needed a reminder of Obama's white side. He's only half black, and the part that takes the half of him that sings on a Coldplay album is the white part. Go on.
Miranda Lambert says she and Blake Shelton gave marriage the old college try.
Does that mean it only lasted a few years and they spent most of it drunk? Because from my understanding, that's pretty much how their marriage went. Adults doing adult things. Thank you so much for hanging out. We'll be back tomorrow. We will do this all over again.